I should have heard the laughter before I realized what was happening. It was late, the hum of the air conditioner filling the small spaces between the voices that spilled from the living room. I had been upstairs, scrolling through emails, trying to ignore the growing pit in my stomach that had been gnawing at me all week. Then I heard it, her voice, unmistakably hers, clear and bright, carrying across the house like a shard of glass. "I can't believe I've been faking it for 3 years," she said, and my heart froze mid-beat. There was a pause, a tiny laugh that I didn't recognize, but the words lingered like smoke in my lungs. "Seriously, guys, 3 whole years of pretending. And he's never noticed." The laughter of her friends came back, muffled by the speakerphone, but I couldn't move. My chest tightened, my fingers went numb. My wife, the woman I had loved, trusted, and shared my entire life with, had been lying to me for years. I didn't say anything at first. I just stood there in the hallway, listening to the final fragment of her confession bounce off the walls. Then, almost automatically, I picked up my phone. I had no plan, no strategy. My thumb hovered over the call button for a moment, and then I did something impulsive, something that felt at once reckless and necessary. I pressed join call. The sound of the speakerphone crackled, and suddenly I was there. I could hear her gasp, sharp and surprised. "Wait, who is, oh my God?" Her friends shrieked in laughter, and I realized she had forgotten to put the call on mute. The betrayal was laid bare, broadcast in stereo, each note stabbing me deeper. It's okay," I said, my voice shaking even though I wanted to scream. Me too." There was silence, then confusion, then outrage. "What do you mean, me too?" she shouted, finally realizing what I had just admitted. Her words were sharp, defensive, like a blade she had been holding all this time. "I've been pretending too," I said quietly. "Pretending that everything was fine. Pretending that I didn't notice. Pretending that I didn't see the cracks in our marriage growing every day while you were busy pretending your way through life with me." Her friends were silent now, the laughter replaced with the stunned pause that follows a bomb going off in a quiet room. Hung up. I couldn't listen to their gasps anymore. I couldn't watch her scramble, her face a mixture of panic and fury. I needed air. I needed space. I needed anything to escape the suffocating sense of betrayal that had wrapped itself around my chest. I went outside. The night was cold, but it felt good against my skin, a reminder that the world didn't end just because my marriage had. The stars were hidden behind a curtain of clouds, as if the universe itself was shielding me from watching it all unravel. I thought about the past 3 years. Every smile, every laugh we had shared, it felt like someone had painted over it with lies. She had faked affection. She had faked desire. She had faked commitment. And I had what? Pretended not to see. Pretended not to care. Pretended that it didn't hurt when she brushed past me with that same fake enthusiasm I now knew she had been capable of maintaining only for appearances. I remembered the nights I had come home late from work, exhausted, only to find her scrolling on her phone, laughing at memes or chatting with friends. I had assumed she was unwinding. I hadn't realized she was rehearsing performances in front of them, performances in front of the mirror, performances in front of me. The first time I felt it, the subtle shift, the almost imperceptible distance, was during our anniversary dinner 2 years ago. She had smiled at me, touched my arm, whispered the words I wanted to hear, and yet, her eyes had been elsewhere, just slightly off, just slightly hollow. At the time, I had chalked it up to stress. Now I saw it clearly. She had been practicing that smile, practicing that touch, practicing for the audience of friends she had told everything to but never me. I went back inside. The house was quiet now, the laughter gone, the traces of our life together hanging in the air like smoke. I walked to the bedroom, where she sat on the edge of the bed, her hair in disarray, her eyes wide and searching. "Why?" I asked, my voice low, controlled, though inside I felt like screaming. "Why would you do this for 3 years?" Her lips trembled. She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. I don't know," she whispered. I don't know. I didn't mean, it just." I shook my head. Don't even try to explain. I don't want excuses. I don't want stories. I want to understand how you could live like this, right under my nose, and never care about what it would do to me. Her eyes filled with tears. I didn't think you'd ever notice. I laughed bitterly. Notice? I've noticed for years. I hoped it wasn't true. I hoped that maybe I was imagining the emptiness. That maybe we were still us. She buried her face in her hands. I could see her trembling. I felt a pang of something I couldn't name. Part of me wanted to comfort her, to reach out and pull her close, to fix this impossible thing between us. But another part, the part that had been waking up every day for 3 years to lies and half-truths, wanted nothing more than to leave, to vanish, to reclaim myself from the shadow she had cast over our life. I need time, I said finally. Time to think. Time to breathe. Time to figure out what's left of me after everything you've done. She looked up, desperation in her eyes. Please don't leave. Please. We can fix this. No, I interrupted. No, not tonight. Not like this. Not after everything. I gathered a few things, clothes, my laptop, my keys. I didn't pack her things. I didn't care about her drama. I didn't care about the we anymore. I just wanted out of the lie, out of the pretense, out of the years of living with someone who had been a stranger wearing my wife's face. As I walked out the door, I felt a curious mixture of grief and relief. Grief for the life we had pretended to live. Relief that the weight of lies no longer pressed against me from both sides. I spent the night at a hotel, sitting by the window and watching the city lights flicker like distant stars. I thought about our wedding day, about the vows we had whispered to each other with such conviction. I thought about how easily those vows had been undermined by deception. I thought about trust and how fragile it was, and how once it was broken, no amount of pleading or apologies could restore it to its original shape. By morning, I knew what I had to do. I returned home not to plead or to argue, but to end it cleanly, finally, without theatrics. She was waiting when I walked in, still sitting on the bed, her hair tangled, her eyes red. She opened her mouth, but I held up a hand. I don't want to hear it, I said. I don't want to hear apologies. I don't want to hear reasons. We've lived in this lie long enough. It's over. Tears streamed down her face. Please. I'll do anything. No. Just leave me alone, I said. We'll sort out the rest later. Just go. Leave. Take your things. Take the life you faked with me and walk out the door. She nodded slowly, understanding finally settling into her expression. She stood, gathered her few belongings, and left. The door closed behind her with a sound that felt final, a punctuation mark on a sentence I never wanted to write but had been forced to live through. The house was empty. The quiet was deafening, but it was honest at least. I walked through the rooms, touching surfaces that had once been part of our shared life, feeling the ghost of her laughter in the air. And then I stopped in front of the mirror in the hallway. I looked at myself, really looked, for the first time in years. There was anger there, yes. Pain certainly. But also something else. Clarity. Strength. The knowledge that I had survived a betrayal so deep it could have swallowed me whole. And yet here I was, still standing. I thought about the call, about the moment I had said, "Me too." It had been an act of survival, an act of reclaiming agency in a world that had been turned upside down by deceit. It had been both admission and defiance, and in that moment, I had begun to untangle myself from the web she had woven. Days passed. Weeks. I stayed mostly to myself, letting the wounds heal at their own pace. Friends reached out, unsure of what to say, offering support that felt both necessary and distant. I returned to work, to routines, to the small details of life that had seemed insignificant before but now carried weight, significance, and a sense of grounding I hadn't realized I needed. And then one evening I received a text from her. "I'm sorry. I never should have." I stared at it for a long time and then deleted it. Some things couldn't be fixed. Some betrayals couldn't be forgiven. And sometimes survival meant letting go entirely, letting the past remain where it belonged, and stepping into the world as someone who had seen the worst and chosen to live anyway. I went back to the mirror one last time. I didn't see the man who had been deceived, the man who had lived under pretense. I saw someone else. Someone stronger, someone cautious but not broken, someone who would never again allow another to define his happiness with lies. And I smiled just a little because it was real. For the first time in 3 years it was real.